Hello. Hey, everybody. Hello and welcome. I'm Natalie. This is Life After a Cult. Hello, everyone. Good to see you there in the live chat. Thank you for being here. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, members. And again, everybody in the live chat for being here. I'm doing a good Scientology recap today. Lots of news to go over. Even in Hawaii, I'm getting caught up on what's happening in the world of exposing Scientology, of pulling back the curtain. And I got to tell you, there's lots of news, including Rebeccas Minkoff, who's a Scientologist, as you guys know, was on the Real Housewives of New York. There is so much backlash and pushback on her right now. It is crazy. And of course, I'm absolutely, completely here for it. We're going to talk about Scientologist Joy Villa being at the Grammys. Some of you might remember, but we'll give you a little refresher. Kelli Copter released a video with Doug Kramer that she did, obviously, before he passed in 23. That's fabulous. We're going to look at that. Growing Up in Scientology reacted to this crazy video with the president of Scientology melting down. We've got volunteer minister news. They're doing what they do, chasing those cameras. That and a lot more stuff to go over. Aloha, everybody. Good to see you. What is today? Like Wednesday, I think. Hey, Robin Miners. I'm so glad you're here. Mama Opal, thanks for being here. And Nancy, of course. 1MTOT, hello. I'm getting caught up here. All right. Northern Girl, thank you so much, too, for being here. And Don Gloves, aloha and shout out to the mods and all of you guys. Oh, I will catch you up on some Hawaii stuff. We'll get going on this recap, though. Abigail, good to see you. Are you back in town? I know you were gone in on some vacation yourself. Susie, thank you for being here from Florida. Oh, if y'all could hit that like button, help us get some notifications out. That would be fabulous. Joanne Holly, welcome. Good to see you. Now, I want to jump into, we have to talk about the some recent news with Pam Bondi, who was just confirmed as the Attorney General for the U.S., and she has ties to dun 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 Scientology. Yes, she does. Joanne Holly, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hey, Laura Font. So we have talked about her before, but just wanted to give a little refresher now that it's official. Just, what we know in terms of her Scientology ties. So this was an article that came out earlier this year where it mentions her Scientology ties. So during her confirmation hearing for the United States Attorney General position, Pam Bondi faced intense questioning from the Senate Judicial Committee on a bunch of different topics. She's a Florida native. Of course, that's where the ties to Scientology come in. At one point, the Florida native vowed to prioritize an investigation into the FBI's alleged discriminatory targeting of Catholic parishes. So let's go down to the Scientology part. So the Tampa Bay Times reported in 2014 there was a fundraiser for a re-election campaign in Clearwater. It was organized by 6 prominent Scientologists. Pam's campaign spokeswoman, Christina Johnson, confirmed that the Republican was aware of their involvement in the event. According to Christina, Pam first engaged with Scientologists in 2010 when she and other elected officials toured some of the church's facilities in Clearwater. And remember what that is all about, right? We know that Scientology tours them to safe point them, to be all, look at our beautiful buildings. We are not a cult at all. We have good coffee. Would a cult have good coffee? I don't think so. We have we can make wonderful food in our restaurants. Could a cult do that? No. Yeah, it can and it does. It can and it does. So this is really interesting. As for the 2014 fundraiser, Christina explained that it was simply a case of like-minded folks sharing the same goals. So that's what her people are saying about her ties to Scientology. Like-minded folks sharing the same goals, including the protection of children from drugs and human trafficking. Nothing says, I've not really looked into Scientology like a statement like that to find out. When you're saying that, no, I am partnering with Scientology, known for being a human trafficking cult, because I don't believe in human trafficking. I mean, the math does not math in this situation. Rona, welcome to you. Candace, hello. Thank you, Christy. Yeah. When I wear my hair up, you can really see the gray, the silver, the white. I'm hoping it comes in like really white. And when I'm here in Hawaii, it's just wearing my hair down. It just all flattens to my face anyways. And the way the wind blows around here, which I absolutely love, I'm just a big fan of wearing it up and getting it out of the way, or wearing a hat so I can just feel those trade winds. That's right, Don Gloves. That's rich. I know. I couldn't believe she said it too. We're like-minded individuals. Okay, if you say so. If you say so. If you want to say you're like-minded, like Scientology, okay. But know what that means. Pam's connections to Scientology have sparked considerable controversy, but she has defended them by saying the church shares her goals of combating human trafficking. So that is what she believes about that. And I don't know, I find that kind of disturbing that now our U.S. Attorney General is going to be someone who thinks that Scientology is on board with ending human rights abuses and human trafficking. It just seems like it's just not that hard to find out about what the truth is. So we will keep an eye. We will keep an eye on that. Suli, welcome. Aloha to you. I was a few minutes late too. I was having microphone issues, but I think I kind of got it figured out. Rain Virus, aloha and good morning to you. Okay, so that's the deal. That's the news with Pam Bondi and what we know there. Again, it's just, it just worries me, because of these Scientology ties and being what her position is going to be. Now let's take a look at another, not just friend to Scientology, but actual Scientologist. Do you guys remember Joy Villa? It was what event? It was an earlier Grammys where she wore that Trump dress. In fact, I'll just show it to you because it's in the article. Oh, Laura Font, take me in that shower, girl. I love it. I love a shower speaker. I wish I brought mine with me. I do some of my best listening in the shower. Okay, this is Joy Villa. Joy Villa is a Scientologist, active Scientologist. And you guys might remember, so this was at the Grammys recently. This is what just happened. And previously when she was there, she wore a MAGA hat, and she didn't wear a hat. She wore this big dress that said Trump on it. And now she's wearing a hat that says the hat stays on. So this article just talks about how she's one of Trump's biggest fans. She returns to the Grammy with yet another maximalist fashion look inspired by the current president of the United States. So who is she? Joy Villa, one of Donald Trump's biggest supporters, returned to the Grammys with another fashion look inspired by the president of the United States. So she is a musician. She was photographed wearing a gold dress with a red baseball cap reminiscent of a MAGA hat, plus a gold chain with a dog sporting a knit hat, which she said represents a cryptocurrency meme coin. That's being reported by the Hollywood Reporter. Where's that? Okay, so here's her dress last time when she was making the news. I don't know if you guys remember this. So this girl goes on the Grammys where she's on the red carpet. She does a bunch of interviews. And as part of them, she basically is talking about deportation and people who are criminals. And yes, if you've committed crimes and you're a criminal, you should be, whether you need to be deported or you're someone who's even here legally in the US or a US citizen, you should be held accountable for violating the law. But she kind of takes it next level in generalizing an entire population of being criminals. And I find that so interesting, being that she is a Scientologist, and we do hear a lot from people, or I do, who are under the radar or former Scientologists. And I remember, because when I was in Scientology, I've been out for 15 years, and I've always been curious about how Scientologists respond to some of these political things. And it is interesting to hear the stance she's taking and how vocal she is about it, because it's still not a good look for Scientology, who brings in so many people from other countries under this religious worker visa. takes their passport so they can't leave, and then it becomes a human trafficking issue. These are people that are not being paid a fair wage. They're being used to do this type of work and being told, well, we're going to help get you into the US or help make it so that you can stay. So as per usual with a lot of things Scientology, they just don't really add up. They don't add up. It's definitely, we see a pattern of Scientologists over here saying, oh, look, we're supporting getting rid of human rights violations. We're supporting exposing human trafficking, while over here, the other hand in Scientology is doing exactly that. And in a lot of these situations, the Scientologists themselves don't know. I mean, they just don't know a lot of the worst that happens in Scientology because it happens in the Sea organization behind closed doors, and they try to keep it secret. And when it happens to you and you're a victim of something in Scientology, in the Sea organization, you're not allowed to talk about it. So you're actually not allowed to tell people about what happened. Much of the abuses of Scientology, you find out after you leave. I have my own experience, and I know the experience of friends that I witnessed. And everyday publican Scientologists tend to be the last people to know. But with the internet and so much news coming out about the truth about Scientology, they're finding out. Some of them are a little resistive to look. And even people who leave Scientology, it can be hard and difficult for them to take a look at some of the truth about Scientology. And I'm always happy when they do, and I hope that they feel safe. I know many of them are here often, lurking, and I always want them to feel welcome and feel that aloha that the chat, the moderators, and you all bring so well. And if you're new to the channel, even if you were never a Scientologist and you have questions about Scientology or cults, always jump in and ask, because if I don't see your question when I'm doing a recap, the moderators or somebody else knows the answer to that question. Hey, Joe Virus, thank you. I'm glad you love it. I feel like it's a real lazy way of doing things, but it works here in Hawaii. Thank you so much for that. Bad Thayton says, I don't know about that. I wouldn't know about the trafficking if it weren't for your channel. Bad Thayton. That makes me happy. That's exactly why we talk about it. It's exactly why I share these stories, and even the stories that are tied to celebrities like Rebeccas Minkoff, because it's what gets attention. People want to know, they get curious, but you can't talk about Rebeccas Minkoff on The Real Housewives of New York without talking about Scientology, which I knew would happen when she was originally going to go on the show. And I was like, yes, I'm so here for this, because I knew this is exactly what would happen. So Joy Villa, Scientologist, kind of acting a fool a bit, not off-brand for Scientology, something to keep an eye on to see exactly how far she's going to take it. Now, Kelli Copter released a video, an interview she did with Doug Kramer. Doug Kramer was a former Scientologist and an advocate for exposing Scientology here on YouTube. I did not ever have the pleasure of meeting him. He passed away right about the time I came onto YouTube, or actually, I think it was just weeks after I came onto YouTube. And being that I did not get to know him, this is a great interview. I'm so glad that Kelli released this. Let's just look at a little clip.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Kelli Copter, and today we are joined by friend, actor, ex-Scientologist, and fellow YouTuber, Doug Kramer from the channel Dazed But Not Confused. Hello, Doug. How are you?
Hello, Kelli. Thanks for having me on, my friend. Looking forward to this.
Oh, I'm glad. It's always so good to talk to you. You are a good friend, and I really want to get into it today with you about kind of Scientology's obsession with Hollywood, and how they actually rope in new aspiring artists and actors, into this cult. For anyone that might not know who you are, do you think you could give a little just sort of backstory on kind of how you got involved with Scientology and how that kind of relates to this whole Hollywood sphere?
Fantastic interview. He answers that question, does such an amazing job. I'm going to link this and all the articles and things we're talking about today in the description of the video as soon as I'm done, so you guys can all check that out. Rainvirus, I'm so jealous of Natalie's gray hair. I broke down and colored mine this weekend because not enough gray yet and too much dirty blonde, which nobody likes. Girl, I get it. I get it. It is a commitment. So I've not colored since October. I still always say I reserve the right to go back and do it if I change my mind. I've been having fun with it. But Kelli Copter's video was fantastic. And for somebody like me who never met Doug, it gave me some insight into why he was so beloved, why so many people were close to him and found his content so fabulous. So check that out. I'm really glad that she went and she released that. And yes, RIP Doug for sure. For sure. Okay, Linda Lou is out of the shower. We can keep going. All right, let's take a look at this video from Growing Up in Scientology, which reacted to an interview with the president of the Church of Scientology, Heber Jentzsch, who really was kind of one of the last people to, or spokespersons to really do interviews for Scientology. There's many reasons why Scientology doesn't do that anymore today. Number one, who they got? Who they got? Office of Special Affairs. Who would you actually send? David Miscavige himself only did that one interview. And there were, mixed reviews on that, depending on who you ask. But back in the day, it was Heber. And this was hilarious. I really enjoyed watching this one. Let's look at a clip.
Excuse me, did I give you my last name? No, you didn't.
Well, I recognize it.
So this is the part where a woman had called in who's a former Scientologist, gives her first name, and Heber calls her out by her last name, doxes her right on the air, and doesn't see anything wrong or strange about that whatsoever. But he gets kind of called out on it, which is hilarious.
Nice, I've heard your voice. So anyway, is it all right if I recognize somebody's voice? Is there a problem with that, Priscilla?
I would say that's an invasion of her privacy. Yeah, let's stick.
I recognized her by her voice. You're the president of an international organization in 33 countries with 700 organizations and 8 million members, and you recognized a member by her voice? I dare say that wouldn't even be possible unless there was such a small number of Scientologists in the world. And plus, I'm guessing that this woman, see, remember, keep in mind, the president of the Church of Scientology International is a post in the Office of Special Affairs International. And the Office of Special Affairs deals with all legal threats, media flaps.
Exactly. So he would know, Heber would know, because again, most importantly, we know that there are not millions of Scientologists, definitely. Oh, I remember the day when I realized that, because we're indoctrinated to believe, oh, there's millions of Scientologists, Natalie, they're just all over the place. And I'm looking around, like in Hawaii, and I thought, because I grew up in Hawaii, that's where my family first got into Scientology. And even as a kid, and as a teenager, thinking, wow, it's just here in Hawaii that Scientology is super slow and has almost new members, because everywhere else, there are millions of members on the mainland. So I grew up thinking, I'm believing that because I lived on an island. And I just thought, well, here, because we're used to in Hawaii, things taking, longer, being more expensive, like being more on island time. So it just hasn't really taken off. That's why there's so little people here in Scientology here on Oahu and in Hawaii. And then I go to the mainland. I go to California and I start training there at the Blue Buildings, and I join the Sea Organization. And as I'm a member of the Sea Organization, part of my job is to travel to different Scientology organizations to set up events for Flag in Clearwater. I would travel with these two Scientologists who were public, but would get people to pay money to go to Flag in Clearwater. And each org I'd go to, San Francisco, I think I went to San Diego, I went to a couple in Canada, Vancouver for sure, I think Toronto, back to Hawaii, multiple, the Twin Cities, every Scientology organization, New Mexico. I've been to quite a few of them. None of them had enough members to back up that there were millions of members of Scientologists. And in doing that, I think it did help to open my eyes a bit of like, whoa, that's probably one of the first major lies in Scientology that I realized early on in Scientology was that, wow, where are they? If there are that many, could they all possibly be all disaffected, as they're called in Scientology? Could they maybe all be hiding? Is this just some bizarre, strange peekaboo where I don't see them, but they're just going to pop out at any given time and we're going to see all these Scientologists? No, because they don't exist. They don't exist. Hey, Moose on the Loose, aloha to you. Susan, good grandma, aloha to you, and thank you for being here. Now let's take a look at some video here, because, you know, can it be a recap if we don't look at what the Scientology volunteer ministers are doing? Well, they're chasing cameras still, and you really see it in this footage here, which is at, where was this? So this was during, somebody from the Dodgers was visiting, and I'm sure some of you who are fans of baseball would recognize. I, of course, am not, so I have no idea who this person is or what's happening as far as the connection with sports. But I do believe he plays the baseball, and a lot of people were turning out at this firehouse here, and lo and behold, yeah, volunteer ministers showed up to get in front of the camera. So let's take a look at this. I think we got a couple things to look at here. So if you look, you're going to see him in the left here. The person doing the cameraing is not a live streamer exposing Scientology. I think they were just there. But look, you'll see, I don't know if you saw that. She moves over here. Look at all the cameras. Now the yellow jackets, the Scientologists, moved to the front. They were standing off to the side, and they went and they moved to the front. I just couldn't believe it. Each time they moved the cameras, they would move. Because again, they were behind the larger cameras. They saw the larger cameras and they went right in front. And then when everybody is leaving, look at this. They make sure they are opposite where all the cameras are, as if they're like, you know, a big key piece of what's happening here. You see right here, this is a volunteer minister right here in his yellow jacket, standing by the police who are directing traffic to get the trucks out. But look where he positions himself. Everybody on the opposite side is videoing and has cameras, and he's right there waving to the trucks. I don't know what the role is there of the volunteer ministers. Then look at the other two right there. They're right there doing the same thing. All the cameras and everything are here. They're positioning themselves on the other side by the firefighters, trying to, of course, you know, look at us. We're here. We're doing Scientology stuff. Yes, we are. I mean, it's just more of the same. It's more of the same. It's just like crazy. It totally is nuts. Hey, Bob. Sport ball. Yeah. It's a sport. It has something to do with a bat and a ball. Bob, 20 to 30 Scientologists per org. Now, some of them have more than that, but my sister and I, when we were outside the Hawaii org the other day protesting, we were talking about how they would be hard pressed to get 100 people to show up. I mean, it's probably even worse now. That was like back in our day. And later, I've heard from some people who left Scientology here, and they're like, yeah, no, it's there's almost no one there. They're just being propped up by incredible people who've been there, like Wilbur, for a very long time. And he's just so invested at this point. I don't really see him leaving, not unless he gets really sick or something. It's really sad to see, because he has literally dedicated his entire life to Scientology, and it just doesn't seem to be like a really good, bean return there. Like, what did you actually get out of it? What happened? He doesn't, in the years that I've known him or known of him, because, after I left, I didn't have any contact, but I would hear from other people that even they felt sad for him because he doesn't have a life outside of the org there, and he's getting older. I just hate seeing that. Aloha, Christy Bell. Thanks for jumping in and saying aloha. Phil Jones did another video, y'all. This got me so excited. Phil Jones tells the best stories. Take a look at this. He was sharing, there was so much information in this video that he dropped.
Because I had been kind of pushing against all the craziness that had been going on, she threatened to declare me. So this is when I learned this trick of what I called the 3-day rule, where if it's getting too hot, get out of the kitchen and kind of hang back. And the thing in Scientology is I would just go away for 3 days, and within 3 days in Scientology, there's always going to be a new emergency or a new person that's kind of risen up and said, you know, something or other. And anyway, they're after something else. So I'd come back in and they were fine. You know, they didn't say anything because they'd forgotten about me by that time. So, and as long as I didn't say anything more, I was okay at that point, because I had.
How crazy is that? I've heard Phil talk about this before, and it actually is really true. So any of you under the radar folks who still need to maintain your standing with Scientology because you might have friends and family in and you're not ready to just unplug and walk away, remember the 3-day rule. He does make a good point. Because Scientology is one emergency after the other, I don't think there's ever been an organization that, what is that saying where your lack of planning is not going to become my emergency? That's kind of the spirit of it, but there's a better way of saying it. Can someone throw that in the chat? And if you're on the replay, jump in those comments. It's basically like that. That's kind of how I think that it is with Scientology. And just kind of disappear. Now, when you're a public Scientologist, not a staff member, you can more easily disappear for 3 days. You couldn't do that as a C organization member or a staff member, because they will just haul your butt back. They will notice immediately. But an everyday public Scientologist could do that more. So if you're under the radar and they're kind of like, you know, breathing heavy on you because they're worried or they're catching on that you're a little disaffected, as they say, just disappear for 3 days and they'll be on to some other crisis or emergency. That is the thing about in Scientology, I think, why so many of us are kept in a state of fight or flight, is it's one emergency after the other. And the simplest things are treated like an emergency, to the point where everything feels like it's life or death. And I really can see how that damages an individual. I knew how many years it took me to break free from that. And honestly, I don't even feel like I'm completely broken free from that, because I still actively, and maybe it's just always going to be that way, use my tools to deal with that anxiety around not getting this done and the world is going to end. There was no evaluating of information of, okay, this is a legit emergency because lives are at stake, versus cleaning the bathrooms is not an emergency or something you got to be running around like a crazy person Thursday before 2 to get done. Like, obviously it needs to be done. But no matter the job in Scientology, it is a complete flap emergency. Reprise 53, lack of planning on your part does not make an emergency on my part. Yes, exactly. Yes, Samantha, your lack of planning is not my emergency. That is totally it. Yep, Nancy, lack of initiative on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. That is Scientology every single day. Whether they're having an event, whether there's a new release coming out, whatever it is an emergency. You got to be staying up all night. The number of people that stay up all night in Scientology, especially the Sea Org, is actually crazy. Somehow I avoided that a large amount of the time. Honestly, I don't even know how. My sister often says, I don't know how you didn't get in more trouble. I just wouldn't do it. I just like, no, I'm not. Maybe I was better at hiding so they couldn't find me. And then once the emergency passes, I mean, there's always going to be another one. They don't have time to go back and see who wasn't there. Somehow I got away with it for the most part. Not always. Not always. But I can remember that. That's right, Arena. Always in emergency mode. We must laminate these flyers by noon tomorrow or the whole world will die. Exactly. Exactly. It's so like that. And you just end up just getting stuck in that mentality and that feeling. And it's part of how they keep people trapped, because even as a public Scientologist, say you're volunteering with the volunteer ministers, and they're jacking you up on how it's going to be the end of the world if we don't get out and do this, and you don't donate or get people to donate. And what are they really doing? I mean, we see, I got a clip coming up from Dan Walks LA we're going to look at to see the volunteer ministers tent where all these supplies supposedly are, and people are supposed to be able to come and get help. But you don't see anybody there. You don't see them actually being used. Christy Lynn Wilson, great point. Joy Villa once wore a pro-life gown on the red carpet. I guess she doesn't know about the forced abortions in Scientology Sea Org. Yeah, probably not. That's a good example of something they keep from the everyday members. You're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it with your fellow Sea Org member. If you were pregnant in the Sea Org, and whether you ended your pregnancy or not, you're not allowed to tell people and talk about it. It's in theta, as they say, in turbulated theta. Northern Girl says it's so hard to imagine that kind of stress on a daily basis. No wonder their health is so bad. Truly, truly, it is so not good for you. I mean, I understand that so much now after years of dealing with neurologists and other doctors, and both my sister and I have 2 different autoimmune diseases. Just the havoc that living like that can create on your body long term, and long after you've left Scientology or a cult, that high control group, whatever that situation was that contributed, that brought that trauma. Do you guys hear that? Holy moly! What is that? It sounds like a plane is. The house is shaking or vibrating. It must be from the military base. I don't know how loud this is. Hold on. We'll just wait for it to pass. You can't hear it? Okay, good. It's going away. It is one incredibly loud plane, but there's a military base across the bay, and they do something. I forgot what it was that they do, but it has something to do with aircraft. But I remember this being kind of normal. Oh, rain virus? Yeah, you would totally hear that. Tracy says, I hear it. Thought it was at my house in Florida. Yeah, it's loud. But the house kind of vibrates. The windows and the doors start to vibrate. Okay, it's gone now. Distraction averted. That is the fun thing about live streaming on the road when you're traveling and you can't have full control over your environment. Like at home, the other day it was the leaf blower. Today it's the airplanes. But I'm still here for it. Wow, that's really loud though for it to block out and interfere with my mic too. Let's see. Okay, where am I at now that I was distracted by the airplane? Okay, we do have another clip from Phil Jones, because y'all know how like Scientology like really loves a good shredding party. They were big on the shredding. Well, once when Phil was in trouble with Scientology, what did they put him on? Doing some shredding, and they told him not to look. I'll give you one guess on whether or not Phil Jones looked when he was told not to look. Yeah, Joe Virus, does feel like an earthquake a little bit. Check this out.
One of the things they had me doing was the CS, the senior CS for the OT levels, had me doing some shredding, and the machine was broken. I fixed the machine. I started shredding, and one of the things he says, this is all upper level stuff. Don't read any of it. I was on that project so long because I had to read everything. I was so curious to know what was on that. Nothing special. It was just stuff. It was just, anyway, I didn't burst into flames or anything from reading it. So, you know, all the class 8 stuff, class 8 auditing stuff and all that, I read most of it, or any of the stuff that I had to shred, a lot of stuff. I mean, there were stacks of it and stacks of it. Eventually I finished my MEST work and got back in session.
And MEST work is physical work, doing physical, like manual labor in Scientology.
And I was on that for a long time because I was just grinding on those OT levels. I think I spent 1,000 hours, 6 months of just auditing and grinding on it because I wasn't getting it.
That is crazy. That is a lot of hours to spend on the operating Thetan levels. So isn't it interesting? He's doing those and he has trouble because it doesn't work. And if you don't play along and convince yourself that something happened and it worked, you never will be done. And they end up having him do shredding. And I'm like, you're going to have now a public person shreds confidential documents and think they're not going to look? I mean, that would just be, you know, I don't know. But he looked. He looked. Oh, I love Phil Jones. I'm going to link it down below. Make sure you check him out. He shared a lot of great info in that video. Let's see. I got a couple more things here. I don't want to fall behind on questions. Hey, Life After Jehovah's Witness. Natalie will, excuse me, will you go and visit Kauai the next time you go to Hawaii? No, probably not. I'm working on a trip that I have been planning for a long time over Tony's birthday, which is in May, but I'm going to the Big Island. Kauai is beautiful. I've been to Kauai. It's just not as much my jam. I pretty much go between the Big Island and Oahu, mainly too because of my family. I can see so much family on both. And personally, I prefer the Big Island. I just like more space. But Kauai is beautiful. But I don't have a trip right now lined up to go to Kauai. But thank you for asking. And another question, what's your favorite Hawaiian dessert? Ooh, oh my gosh, so many. It's hard to choose between the malasadas, the poi balls, and chocolate haupia pie. I had that last night. That is probably one of my favorites. Okay, let's see here now, catching up. Let's see here. There's a call to action from Audit LA that I want to share. Get on your radar. I'll link it down below. She's saying the Scientology propaganda nonsense videos, as promised, a post and a specialized skill call to action. Here's the 3 videos that Scientology sent out to warn the CHNC about the protesters. It's so manipulative and ridiculous. Skilled editing, though, I give them props for that. The call for skilled action is for anyone who can edit and make videos showing their criminality and disregard for the laws of the land and for people. I would also love to have video clips showing the protesters in a positive light. We need to show the other side of their narrative. They keep saying the protesters are a group of dangerous criminals. Then they make videos that we're all actors. Make up your mind already. The videos should be short, 1 to 5 minutes. I like their quick soundbite edit style. If anyone who can do the editing needs help with research, please let me know and we'll put a call out. They've been doing this stuff for a long time. They kind of wrote the handbook. Let's use their handbook. And then she gives links to those videos that Scientology did and put out. So that is a fabulous call to action. If you are able to do that, head over to Audit LA, connect with her, and see what can be done there. Because, I mean, she's right. Scientology, they do have some mad editing skills. But you know what? I bet we have a lot of people out there that probably can do it better. And kind of even the playing field a little bit here and share more accurate information about the protesters that can fly in the face of Scientology's propaganda, black propaganda too, as Scientology would call it. It's only black propaganda if it's against Scientology, though. Otherwise, it's the truth. That's what they say. That's what they think. I think that's a great thing to do. So you can check out those videos. And again, if you can clip and stuff, go ahead and reach out because that would be great. And I know we got a lot of talented people in this community. Yeah, Robin, we're going to talk about Rebeccas Minkoff in just a couple of clips here. And we got a lot to talk about that. So I want to hear what you guys think. Oh my gosh, here comes like another plane or something. But check this out from Scientology Audit Streets LA. Y'all remember the elder abuse charge, the elderly's felt a stalking charge that Joey tried to bring to Scientology Audit Streets LA. This guy went to court, fell down, slid down walls, had canes when he went to court. Yet here he is walking down the street with his dog carrying groceries unassisted. So, you know, yeah, there's that, Joey. Soon as Scientology doesn't need him to be handicapped or disabled in some way, he no longer is. But the second Scientology might need him to be again, then he might be. That's just what it looks like, just from looking at it. It does. Bina, I think Schofield and Wahiwa. I forget what this one is. It's got to be closer to Kaneohe. Is there a Kaneohe Air Force Base? We could probably figure it out. I forget what it's called. But whatever it is, I'm right by it. Antics of a Mama Squirrel. Aloha. He runs around there riding his scooter. Exactly, right? I'm telling you. Nisa, those people don't stop at nothing to get the protesters to stop protesting. And I wouldn't talk if I were them. They break the law every day, truly, but it's not going to stop them. It's not going to stop them. I can ask questions. Your glowing Hawaiian family seems to be good for you. Oh gosh, you guys have no idea. You totally know. I know you know. It does. Being with my family right now is incredible. Incredible. I can't even talk about it too much or I'll start crying, and we have more clips to get through. One that brought a big smile to my face was Eric Rader was out with a honk if Scientology is a cult sign. And look how much fun he was having. I wish Eric was more in frame, but you can see him there with the sign. That's so great. You can even hear cars off in the distance that are honking. I thought that was fantastic. I love seeing that. And he just looked like he was just living his best life out there. So I love that. Hey, Joe Virus, have you seen the 80s surf movie North Shore? Yes. In fact, one of my uncles was in. I don't remember if it was North Shore or another one. One was more of like a documentary, or so if this is fiction or nonfiction, I can't remember. But I know I've seen it. Right now, in fact, I still haven't gone to the beach yet. We've been doing a lot of family stuff, which is fabulous, but I do want to get to the beach. On the North Shore right now, they're under a high surf advisory and stuff. So I'm like, oh, I want to go see. Steph, 22 years sober. Thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. Mahalo to you. Make sure you join our members only live. Today, I think, it would have been yesterday. I don't even know what day it is. It's Wednesday. But with the time difference and my family commitments, I wasn't able to do it yesterday. So members, hold out. We'll figure out how to do one. Hopefully while I'm still here before I go back. That would be a lot of fun to do a members only live here too. But hang loose there. Oh, one of your fave fiction movies. Okay, so now I remember which one I think it is then. And then I don't think it's the one my uncle was in, but it was around close to the same time. I do believe. That's right, Joe Virus, Hawaii time. We're on Hawaii time over here. Okay, let's see now. Okay, let's take a look. I told you we were going to look at the volunteer ministers at the Blue Buildings. Dan Walks LA showed us a look, and then we're going to talk about Rebeccas Minkoff after that. Check this out. Here's the cameraman for the volunteer ministers. Do you see him there? You got security, and he's coming out with the camera to go film something. Showing off his fit. Check out my pants, man. I'm wearing great shoes. Y'all have a good day. I hope it's Xenu free. Goes about his business. And then we get another angle. But look at this. All of these tents. There's the guy with the camera doing his thing. Coming upon the group. Probably letting them know. I don't doubt that Scientology teaches them like, hey, here's how you do this. If you see a camera, you get in front of it. You dodge, duck, dive. Wait, that's the movie Dodgeball. But you could do the same thing if you're a volunteer minister. Dodge, duck, dive, get in front of the camera. Oh, these people. We see it. We see it. All right, let's now talk about Rebecca Minkoff because, oh my goodness, is this girl getting it in all the best ways? Because let's be honest, this Scientology's conversation should have happened during the show. I don't know what the deal was. So Rebecca Minkoff is a Scientologist, second generation Scientologist, was on the Real Housewives of New York, and they recently had the Real Housewives of New York reunion. And she was getting called out on not talking about Scientology, on her bizarre answers to questions about Scientology. Most of you know, but if you're new to the channel, I'm going to fill you in real quick. Rebecca Minkoff is the handbag designer, fashion designer. Her brother, she's got her business with her brother, Yuri. I think it's Yuri. Her father is Dr. David Minkoff, who was involved in the death of Lisa McPherson, and also Whitney Mills, who's a Clearwater Scientologist, who unalived herself while under his care. Whitney Mills is someone who reached out to him and her team of Scientologists expressing she was having hallucinations, she was having mental issues. And did they get her any kind of mental health whatsoever? No. She was an operating Thetan level 8, which is as high as you can go on the auditing side in Scientology. And instead, she was told to basically get her TRs in, get her training routines in, which is Scientology talk for suck it up, buttercup. And she didn't get the help that she actually needed. And she ended up unaliving herself in the worst way. She tried to set herself on fire, and then she used a pew-pew. Tragic, absolutely tragic and sad. And there's currently a civil lawsuit going on between her family and Dr. Minkoff. So that's Rebecca Minkoff's dad. The Minkoff family has donated so much money to Scientology that it'll just make your head spin. So let's take a look at this article. There's multiple ones out. I'm a big fan of the one that's in the Daily Mail right now. Rebecca Minkoff is grilled over ties to Scientology on Real Housewives of New York reunion and addresses cult accusations. Because remember, they were finally calling her out on like, hey, this is supposed to be a cult. Like, what's the deal here? How can it be you're saying it's a religion and it's not a cult? And let me know what you guys think about this. And as we read this, I'll pull up your comments so we can talk about it. Rebecca Minkoff was grilled over her ties to Scientology on the Real Housewives of New York reunion and even addressed the cult accusations. The 44-year-old fashion designer who joined the Bravo series in a guest role this season and also addressed their future on the series, took a stand against the cast members who made some unkind comments regarding her beliefs. Rebecca specifically addressed what Aaron said about her in a confessional earlier this season. Because, they do these confessionals where they pull you off to the side and you go in a room and you just like talk your business. I'm going to start having confessionals for myself on my own channel. Maybe I'll just come on and be like, hey, you know what? So this person over here, just like the Real Housewives. So Aaron said on the show, she called me to complain about me bringing up how are you Jewish and how are you a Scientologist, which was approved language actually from you. But she didn't like the tone in which I said it. Aaron went on to call Rebecca the most self-involved person I ever met. So Aaron, who is a pot stirrer on the show, because let's be real, that's your job. I'm sorry, if you're going on the Real Housewives, you better be stirring some pots. That is the time and place. That's why people watch the show. We love to see rich people fight and argue. At least I do. Am I alone in this? Maybe. But that's why I watch. But Rebecca never really addressed these questions, and her answer would involve basically saying that I'm Jewish and I'm also a Scientologist, and she would downplay the Scientology part, saying, oh well, you know what, I mean, it just helped me with anxiety and depression. Oh really, girl? Because those aren't words used in Scientology. Maybe she just wants to use the other words there. And you don't get to where she is in Scientology without being a full-blown Scientologist. And if you are a full-blown Scientologist, then you can have Scientology will say they're non-denominational and you can maintain your faith in Christianity, or if you're Jewish. But doing them both is where it becomes a bit murky, because Scientology will tell you that you can. But any Scientologist who's been in Scientology or former member knows that's not true. You actually do get in trouble for it. And I have my own story with my mom as case in point for that. Before we left Scientology, my mom was baptized at a Christian church, and she had been auditing on. She wasn't actively auditing on it because she had a kidney transplant, and she never got back to auditing on operating Thetan level 7. Well, as a part of that, she ended up getting in trouble for getting baptized, and reports were written on her that went all the way from Minnesota to Clearwater to tell on her. And they went into the hands of the people in charge of my daughter, Shelby, who we were trying to get home, to get her out of Scientology, but to get her home to go on a trip with her dad for Christmas is what Scientology knew. And this was all done to try and prevent Shelby from leaving. My mom very much got in trouble. She got written up for it, and it was presented as a problem to Shelby. Your grandma got baptized. This is like not okay. So it's just not true. And I don't care how many times Rebecca Minkoff wants to say that. It is actually not true in Scientology. But her saying it and the way she's presenting it, that's called an acceptable truth in Scientology, or a sure story. It is not the whole story. You cannot be auditing on certain levels in Scientology and practicing religious beliefs. It's considered mixing practices in Scientology. It violates what's called keeping Scientology working. It's an other practice. That's the reality of it. In the beginning of Scientology, if you first start out, yeah, sure, you could still get away with both. But at a point, you no longer can, and you will get in trouble for it. So that's just such a bunch of just not true. Not true. Now, let's see here. So let's go. There's a picture of Rebecca there. You guys saw that's some of her other castmates there. So host Andy Cohen asked what she meant by approved language, because that was also something thrown out. Approved language? What's that about? What do you mean approved language? Well, Erin then explained. She says, I understand it's a sensitive topic for her. I said, can I ask you the question? And she said, yes. So before they were filming, it sounds like Erin said, hey, I would like to ask you this. And then Erin goes on to say her being mad about that was literally the weirdest thing ever. They then showed a clip from the confessional in which she said, I don't fully understand how you can have two religions that are so different and opposing. Rebecca expressed to Erin that hearing that was, quote, a bit disappointing, before insisting that Scientology is a world-recognized religion. She said, I feel like in general, this subject with me in the show has been disrespected. That was Rebecca saying that. It has helped me overcome depression, anxiety, be a better mom, be a better communicator, deal with the incredibly intense pressure of running a company. She looked at both Erin and Andy, who are Jewish, before saying, getting attacked for it feels like we're dealing in a time being attacked for what we believe in. Okay, did you get that? So when she got to the part of her spiel where she was going to talk about, right, that she's also Jewish, she looks at the two Jewish people and tries to position her being attacked as a Scientologist as their plight. I mean, is she really comparing it to the Holocaust and what the Jewish people went through and discrimination that still exists today to Scientology? She is. She's trying to tie it together. She's trying to position the two together to get some clout from being Jewish, to kind of like clout goblin it over to being a Scientologist. And I'm glad that that wasn't lost on people, that they actually saw what she was trying to do there. Rebecca then asked how she felt attacked by one of the cast members. You know, like, girl, how you feeling attacked? And she replied, Rebecca, some of the things said in confessions really hurt. Outside of the show, you're attacked all day. It felt like it was coming from a place of, I'm going to bring it up because it's clickbait and I'm going to get you to react. Okay, number one, is it just me here? Like, did she not watch one episode of the Real Housewife franchise? It's been around for such a long time in multiple cities. I kind of feel like, yeah, of course. Of course, they're going to bring up the most salacious things. That's the point of having this show. This show exists to make money. You have a show, you get advertisers, they pay for advertising. That's how everybody gets paid. If it's boring and nobody's watching, what is then going to happen? That is the whole point. So I don't think she's being naive about it. I think she's trying to rewrite history a little bit with this. Let's see. Irina, good point. To be fair, I don't think she was comparing it to the Holocaust, but she was certainly comparing it to the sort of everyday commonplace anti-Semitism. Good point. That's a good point, Irina. Thank you for that. Let's see. Let's see what else she had to say here. And I think that's like hiding behind trying to say like it's clickbait. It's like, no, that's why you're on the show, because you're a Scientologist. That's interesting. That could make for good television, and the conflict is all part of it. She then took aim at something Brynn said during the season. She said, I feel like when someone calls someone a used car salesman selling snake oil, that's offensive, when she never even bothered to get to know me at all. Andy then added a bit of fuel to the, oh, this is a typo, fuel to the first. Andy then added a bit of fuel to the fire as he brought up a comment of a fan of the show who said of her being casted, no thanks, stop normalizing cults. Rebecca replied, that is a bigoted term. It's hate speech to keep calling a religion a cult. Okay, you guys tell me what you think about that in the chat. If you are on the replay, jump into those comments because I'm going to go back and read them. I want to know. Comparing and saying, well, it's bigoted to call it a cult because it's a religion. Well, that's arguable. That's subjective, right? A lot of people don't think Scientology is a religion, and they get to think that. Even fewer people think it is a religion, and I guess they get to think that. But it's not going to change that the vast majority of people see it as a cult because of the actions and the practices that it uses, enforcing disconnection, breaking up families. That's just one part of it that makes it a cult. The shunning, cutting people off, covering up abuses, all of the things that make it a cult. That's why people call it a cult. So we're all not picking up what she's trying to put down here. She's doing what Scientology does, is they turn around and try to play that you're being a religious bigot card. That's what they do. You see it. They try to do it to almost every major person who has ever called out, protested, or spoken out against Scientology. They try to hide behind this, well, you're just being a religious bigot. No, you're a cult, and we're calling it out. So Rebecca says, you wouldn't be asking me these questions about Christianity, Muslim, Judaism. I am tired of the attacks. And it's suddenly okay for this religion? It is not. She was then asked if she had actually expected to be on Real Housewives of New York and not have to address Scientology at all, which is a great question. Like, girl, did you think you were going to come on here and not have to address the fact that you're a Scientologist? Rebecca said, I'm happy to talk about it if I feel like I'm at a place where I can have an honest conversation. She had also had a recent hour-long dinner with Raquel and Jessel to talk about her beliefs. Of the meeting, Rebecca said, this also isn't something you can answer. We spent an hour talking about it, and there was probably still more time to go. Do you have an hour? No, this is not the format to discuss this. So again, when it's brought up to her, hey, you were asked about this multiple times, and you always blew it off to not talk about it. And now Rebecca Minkoff's trying to be all like, well, it's because y'all were rude. No, it's because you're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to repeat what Scientology would call an enemy line. Like, Scientology is a cult in the eyes of Scientology. They call that an enemy line. You're not supposed to repeat it when you're trying to do damage control. So how do you talk about it without repeating those things? And how do you talk about it and defend it when it has no defense? There is no defense to a lot of the human rights abuses that Scientology commits on a regular basis. So she doesn't talk about it because she can't defend it. Scientology's own policy is never defend, always attack. Isn't it interesting that every time somebody questions her about Scientology, Rebecca Minkoff comes back with, "You're attacking me. You're attacking me and you're attacking my beliefs." This is the handling for Scientologists who are in the media or out doing this type of work, is to play the "you're attacking me, you're a religious bigot." It's, again, it is one of the key ways, even though it doesn't work, Scientology still will do that. They will try to paint people who speak out against Scientology, former members, and even people never in Scientology, but all in on ending this cult. They will try to paint us as religious bigots. You'll hear it. They'll go into chats. They'll go into other channels. They will try to say, "Oh, so-and-so is a religious bigot." Not even about against Scientology. It could be a different religion. It is a tactic that has been used by the Office of Special Affairs for decades. So keep an eye out on that one, because it is one of the favorites in the Office of Special Affairs playbook. We don't like what Natalie's saying. Let's position her as a religious bigot. And that's exactly what Rebecca Minkoff is trying to do here. And it's not working. It is not working. It is not working. People see right through it. They see you, girl. Abigail says, "I think she jumped into the show either naively by thinking they wouldn't talk about it, or overconfident. I'm thinking she could deflect it." Abigail, that's a great point. I think it's overconfident. I think she was overconfident about it. I don't know. You don't get to where she built up this business. Like, I mean, she hustled. You got to give her props for her accomplishments in that way. She's not stupid. And I don't think she's naive either. But I could see her being overly confident about it. You actually make the situation worse, because she's still not answering the question. You know, she's not addressing that Scientology is referred to as a cult by more people than it's not. She's just coming back with the same Scientology answers. Hey, surrounded by Scientology. Good to see you. You jet setter. Anna from Canada, I'm glad you're jumping in from the beginning there. Kraken says, "Oh my God, does she just say I have to be in a certain place to discuss my religion? You would only say, read the book." Exactly. You're basically saying, like, if I don't feel like you're totally on board with Scientology, I don't feel I'm in a position to discuss it. It's a good opportunity. Go back and think about that interview with Heber Jentzsch that Growing Up in Scientology reacted to. We played a clip from that earlier. At least Heber was addressing some of the questions and the accusations. You don't see that. We see a pivot away from that in Scientology to just hiding behind and just using their Office of Special Affairs tactics to try to shut people up. So it's there's so much there. I'm going to link it down below. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it is long. Honestly, the thing could deserve its own video. If I wasn't here in Hawaii being halfway on vacation, I'd make a separate one, but somebody should, because the show was coming out. I was super excited. I watched the show. I was super disappointed, because as much as Rebecca Minkoff feels that it was brought up too much, I feel like it wasn't brought up enough. It was barely talked about. But here we are. The show is over. The reunion show is happening. And look what's happening. It's all coming up. It's all coming up. Oh, he was no better, but I mean, but he at least gave some information, whereas Rebecca Minkoff's just not. That's bigoted of you to ask me that. She's not even having the conversation. He is worse in many ways, but at least there was an effort to try and bring certain things up. She just completely shuts it down. That's what I mean by that. No, he was a total POS. Don't get it twisted. Irina says, "I think she might have had a plan A on how to do the show. Then ethics or Office of Special Affairs pulled her in and forced upon her all these worn out lines and tactics of never defend, etc. She might be limited by them." True. Very true. That could be part of the handling of how she was going to do that, how she was going to respond if it came up. There's no way they didn't drill with her beforehand. When I was in Scientology, anytime I went to do an interview for Scientology, I was drilled ahead of time, not just on what the questions could be, but on any false data that came up. In other words, truth about L. Ron Hubbard. They had answers ahead of time for me to be ready for that and to be able to respond. Fly safe, surrounded by Scientology. Fly safe. Looks like you're getting on a plane. Buttercup, I'm glad you're getting caught up there. Let's see. Nancy says it's not a religion in Canada. I can call it spaghetti. LOL. That's right, Nancy. Also depends on where you are, you know? Yeah, she's going to keep trying to say that, keep trying to use it that way. Today, I am hoping, I don't know if it's going to happen. I am at the mercy of about like 3 to 5 other people at any given time on my schedule, but we did want to go to what's called the swap meet out here, which is open today. It's like an outdoor market with just all kinds of fabulous stuff. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening today. And it's a little cloudy outside right now, but I think it's going to clear up. I cannot complain because I'm still in Hawaii. I can hear the chickens and the birds off in the distance. I'm going to find myself something good to eat, get on with my day. But if you guys see something, say something. Email me, Natalie@lifeafteroccult.com. Send me a clip. If you send me a video, please try to send me a timestamp and tell me what I'm looking at, especially if it's a lengthy video, so I can go right to what you're talking about. And if you want to clip it, if you know how to do that, feel free. You can send links to articles. I really appreciate it, especially while I'm traveling, to help me put things together and see what we can recap together. We'll take a question here. Kraken. Me too, Rebecca. How is it being a child of a father under legal scrutiny? It's not attacking her religion, and it's crucial. It's critical thinking question for her to tap into her emotions. She tailspin. Exactly. That's what she's trying to avoid. She doesn't want those questions coming up about her dad and his involvement in these Scientology deaths. Not at all. I'm sure she's trying to stay far, far away from that. Great point, though. Well said. Beth Dayton, you were on Oahu. That's awesome. Ha, Mar, you went to the swap meet? Yeah, it's awesome. If we don't make it today, we got a couple other opportunities to be able to do that. If y'all could do me a solid, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and maybe set your notification bell to all. So when I jump on live and do a random live stream, because doing the recap, and it's going to be loosey-goosey with the schedule till I get back home in Minnesota. And I really appreciate you guys still being here with me, still watching the videos, doing all of your things, jumping in the comments. I have so much to get caught up on with that, but I love hearing from you. So I hope you guys have an aloha day and most of all, a cult-free day.